So, crossing from Dayan into Crimea. Over this one bridge, there's a lot of enemies here, but this is a Seas chapter, not a Route chapter, so we don't have to fight all of them, but I'll be trying to fight most of them anyway. This map is actually pretty unique, and as you can see, Patrine is the boss here. Her stats on hard mode at least are kind of impressive. She's actually pretty difficult to double, but the main thing that lets her down is having the Flame Lance. This was built up all the way back in Chapter 7 as a terrible Lance of Arcane Might. It's magical, so it won't be doing all that much damage to you for the most part. She does have this skill though. This is exclusive to certain members of the 4 Riders. You'll never get access to this. So everyone within 3 spaces has -5 to hit and critical hit chance. Also, she has an S rank in Lances, and also her secondary weapon is Axes. That's kind of cool because it makes her kind of a mirror of Titania. But she doesn't actually make use of that. A lot of hacks have given Patrine better weapons, and she's actually quite a bit of a threat if she has better weapons. Anyway, as for the other enemies, the main gimmick of this map is you'll be running forward, having to deal with a lot of siege engines, and in some cases long-range tomes, like this Blizzard, which you can actually get, so it's recommended that you get a flyer to smash this guy quickly. Which is going to be hard for me, because my main flyer has to stay back at the base. We also have a few tornado things, also physics stars that we can steal with Volk if we want to. If I have room for Volk in the chapter, that is. We've also got a few feral ones to deal with, and we also have Har here. He has a Brave Axe, and he has the Guard skill, B ranks in both weapons. For this reason, we want to bring Jill to this chapter. Even if you haven't trained Jill, you want to bring Jill here. So I want to check if any of the enemies drop stuff. Apart from that Flame Lance, which Jill uses surprisingly well, thanks to her alright magic stat. Okay, there is a droppable Heavy Spear. And the Killer Bow as well, which, after I just got done selling 2 Killer Bows. So, let's choose our units. So, we have more deployment slots, but I want to bring Ranulf here because, you know, Ranulf, I just want to use him because this is the first chapter that he's in. Also, I want to get his support with Leth, and that's really the only reason I'll be deploying Leth from now on. Sadly, she's not going to be that useful to me. Definitely want Gatry though, because he sat the last chapter out. Mordecai is useful for smiting, and Volk. To be honest, this actually, wait a minute, I haven't bought time. There's also Tanith. Let's see who I can potentially kick out here. Sorry, Khalil, but might not want to bring you here. I'll go ahead and bring Titania, and this is fine. Wait a minute, let me just check to see if Volk has enough speed. 16, and the Sages have 14. So, I will need to be careful of all the ballistas though, but if I can steal those physics stars, that might be good. So there is a pretty major gimmick to this map, and you might be seeing what it is around the time the chapter starts up. Unfortunately, Jill has to stay around the start of this map because of certain reasons. I think for now this should be alright. So, let's go. So Har and his squad fly away for now. We'll be dealing with them later, and that's why Jill needs to stay towards the start of the map. Now the main gimmick of this chapter is that the enemy has dug pitfalls in this bridge. There's no real way to tell where the pitfalls are just by looking at them. Apparently, if you're on a Dolphin emulator, there's actually a bit of a graphical glitch where sometimes the pitfalls are distinguished a little bit from the other tiles by their border. I kind of wish this was an intended feature, like, you know, the invisible walls in Kobe's gym in the first Pokemon games, for example. But I don't think it is. I don't think you're meant to know where the pitfalls are. I have found a map on game FAQs that shows the locations of all the pitfalls. I'll be showing that now, but I don't really have it memorized myself. I mostly just, I don't know, sometimes I like to be surprised with them. They're really not that much of a threat, honestly. And you'll see why once we actually get into this, but I know there's a pitfall around this area. There's like at least one pit around here. So one thing to note about the pitfalls is that flyers, obviously, are immune to them, and because of that, 2 units can't occupy the same space at any one time, obviously. So if you abuse the fact that flyers can't fall in pits, you can position a flyer directly on a pit and have any other units move across the pit, just as if it wasn't even there. Because, yeah, since 2 units can't occupy the same space at any one time, as long as a flyer is standing on a pit, no one else can fall in that pit. So that can be a useful technique if you know exactly where the pits are, but I prefer to do this chapter without knowing exactly where they are. Because, I don't know, I just find it's a little bit more interesting that way. It leads to some interesting slapstick moments when someone completes their action and then falls in a pit. Enemies tend to avoid the pits. I know that in Radiant Dawn it's possible for, like, because, in fact, I probably shouldn't spoil this, but, let's just say that Radiant Dawn revisits this map, and the pretty hilarious thing is that there it gets combined with rescue staves, and the enemy sometimes rescues people right onto a pit, so you'll see the enemy teleport and then immediately fall in a pit, which is pretty funny when it happens. Also, we get a unique battle background for this map. Some people consider this chapter to be that one level because of all the pits, but the pits to me aren't all that dangerous. They're a lot worse than Radiant Dawn. In this game, if you fall in a pit, you can still dodge. That is not the case in Radiant Dawn. Characters in pits in that game are automatically hit by any attack, which can actually be very dangerous if more fragile characters fall in a pit in that game, but here it's really not too bad. Also, the siege engines aren't that bad. This is our first instance of certain... We won't be seeing it until the very end of the map, but this is the first instance of a stone thrower siege weapon. Stone throwers are certainly something to say. They're something, but whether that something is good or not, it's mostly not. It's pretty funny, actually. Okay, that's one use of Blizzard already down. I will want to try and grab that, because Soren will always be able to use that for the most part. And you're going to get destroyed. Warriors should never fight Sword Masters, unless it's Fates, in which case they can usually get one. Although Warriors aren't even in Fates anyway. Only Berserkers in that game. Yeah, something that I don't know, I guess I could mention this. This is a bit of a tangent, but something that I was thinking about earlier. I've always said that my favourite classes, or at least some of my favourite classes, are... Okay, that's not a pit. Some of my favourite classes are Sword Masters and Generals, which is funny because those two classes are the exact opposites of each other, but I like both of them for different reasons. Maybe because they're both classes that you can just stick in the middle of a bunch of enemies and just watch all of the enemies die, but Sword Masters dodge tank, Generals just do massive damage, and regular tank, so they're kind of similar, but just for different reasons. But someone asked me what my least favorite classes are, and thinking about it, I have to say maybe Warrior. There are a lot of games in which Warriors are totally inferior to Berserkers to me, because Berserkers have a crit bonus, and I know Warriors can use bows, but I don't find that useful in a lot of games. Oh, here's Keichu's first Luna. Only did a little bit more extra damage though, because fighters don't really have the best defense. Yeah, even though all the unpromoted enemies on this map are level 20, still, there really shouldn't be any well, most of them are level 20. There shouldn't be any unpromoted enemies at this point in the game. It's just kind of dumb that they still exist, but that's just the way things go. Now, I'm kind of suspicious that there's a pit here, so I'm just going to tread lightly. I actually really like what Radiant Dawn did with the Pitfall gimmick, but... Anyway. Moment of truth, is there a pit here? Yep, I thought so. So yeah, that's our first instance of a pit. So anyone who falls in a pit is considered paralyzed, but only for... Oh yeah, looks like you can't actually move the pit tiles. Only for the enemy phase. And in this game, paralysis doesn't prevent the enemy from actually dodging, so really it's not that debilitating. Now, I'm sure there's a pit somewhere here. I think if you hug the very edge, you'll avoid the pit. Yeah, so the pit is somewhere in this row, which means Nephany will have to be careful. I know there's a pit around there somewhere. I guess I can show... I was going to have Mist take out this warrior, but I guess I can show this first. Speaking of warriors, like I was saying, yeah, warriors might be one of my least favorite classes. I know there are some amazing warriors, but it's more... I don't know, I've never really liked the warrior class as a class in general. Because in a lot of games, warriors tend to have bad defense. Like, they only have good HP and strength, and everything else is terrible. In the games where warriors have good speed, they're actually really good. Like, for example, Void in this game, the warriors in... I don't want to smite Soren and have him go in a pit. That would be embarrassing, so let's not do that for now. The warriors in Radiant Dawn are amazing. Might as well have left go around here. Orson in FE5 is really amazing. But I feel like I more like those warriors for them rather than the fact they're warriors. They're just really, really good people who just happen to be warriors. And yeah, you get cured if they're stunning right after you end your turn, so it's mostly just that you can't move any further that turn. That animation actually looks pretty cool. Enemies can still attack you, but like I said, unlike Radiant Dawn, characters in pits can still dodge in this game. As you can see there. I thought Tani wouldn't double. Yeah, she's getting a lot weaker at this point. Almost feel like I should give her the Night Ward. Now, I do need to watch out because some of those ballistas are killer ballistas. Well, at least one of them is. Well, if that was Meteor, I'd need to be worried, but... Cats are fine with blizzards. Probably not in real life, but, yeah. That just reminds me of a, there was this olden science show I used to watch, and there was one segment they did where they talked about how it's easier for a cat to survive falling out of a 50-story building than it is a 7-story building. Because of the way that cats, have this, they sort of right themselves in midair as they're falling, but... Because there have been apparently a lot of stories about cats falling out of apartments in New York and being completely fine. But... Anyway, warriors are usually not my favorite class. I'm just trying to think of other classes that I don't really like. Apart from, you know, trainee classes that aren't done well, which is most of them. If I could name a specific game variant of a class, Radiant Dawn Falcon Knights. I just never really found them all that great. Silver Blade Swordmaster, that's a little bit scary, but Jill can take you. Jill is 1 HP off taking you, annoyingly. I like Paladins in a lot of games. Yeah, there actually aren't that many fire... Well, okay. If Roy's Lord class counts its own class, that's probably my least favorite class in the series. Because we all know, how bad Roy is in that game. Roy may be some people's boy, but he isn't mine. Yeah, Roy is still my least favorite Fire Emblem protagonist. But I admit that some aspects of him have a lot of potential. Like, the fact that he's easily the youngest main character in the series, I think, and the fact that he struggles with almost PTSD over leading the army is just such an interesting concept, but nothing's really done with it because that game just has non-existent character development, even most of its supports. A lot of its supports are more concerned with lampshading gameplay mechanics than they are actually developing characters. Like, I know there's that infamous one, I've probably mentioned this before, where it's an entire support conversation with the Pegasus Knight that consists almost entirely of, oh, by the way, you're weak to archers, you better watch out for them. But there's also, you know, characters referring to affinities as a mechanic, and there's also that one support with Roy and Cecilia, where they discuss whether efficiency or experience is better for a Fire Emblem playstyle. It's not literally that, but it's basically that. Okay. I wonder if I can avoid pits by doing this. I think I actually might be able... No, don't do that. I want you to curve around. Like that. There we go. And then Stefan needs to get healed. Also need to make sure that Rayson is not in range of any of those. Yeah, there's the pit. Okay, I knew someone had to find it sooner or later, but it's around there somewhere. Let's see what we've got coming. We've got a few of those. We have Iron B. Yeah, so Iron Ballistas are slightly stronger, and one of these... Actually, they're both Killer Ballistas. And this is a Stone Thrower. We'll be showing what the Stone Thrower does later, and it's pretty funny. Stone Throwers are kind of stupid in this game. Although, I remember that in Radiant Dawn, when I was playing that recently, I actually had a Stone Thrower be a pretty big threat to me in one of the Part 2 chapters. Also, if you're in a pit, you can still attack things above the pit. And there's no, like, height mechanic in this game, so... Yeah, another thing that was changed in Radiant Dawn. Why didn't more games carry that forward? The height mechanic was so cool in that one. Remember, there is still a cat there. Nethany also hasn't really done all that much so far. I guess I can safely smite Sora now, because I don't need to worry about Mordecai falling in the pits. And yeah, there will be more pits coming up. And let's see. Yeah, so I can't... Oh, I can actually chant from Mist. Sorry, I didn't notice there wasn't a yellow tile below her. But even if I did do this... Guess just to demonstrate this... Okay, it was the end of the turn anyway, so she recovered from stun anyway. But yeah, she wasn't able to move. I should have healed you. That is one pretty considerable issue of falling in pits, is that if your staff user falls in the pit before they get a chance to heal, then they forfeit their chance to heal, obviously. No doubling because of the Demi-Band, probably. Oh, crap. Ow. Yeah, you gotta watch out for racing around those ballistas, but at least he wasn't transformed. Because if he's transformed, then he suffers effectiveness bonus from that, and that hurts a lot. Yeah, Jill can one-shot these guys with this Please Hit Lance. I'll need to graduate to either Silver Lances or Forged Silver Lances soon, although I'm pretty sure that was just a B-ranking Lances, because I haven't had Jill use Lances for a long time, because Axes are king in this game. Well, in the Tellius series in general, Axes are king. They're somehow even better in Radiant Dawn, as if that was possible. And then hard mode made them even better, because Weapon Triangle doesn't exist, so, don't need to worry about them being, ruined by enemy sword users. B rank. Oh, actually her Lance rank is higher than her Axe rank. It's not like you really need to have that high of an Axe rank in this game, though, because Steel Axes are pretty much fine for the most part. Okay, I want to leave one of these stages alive, but sadly this guy only has 2 uses of Blizzard left. Okay, before I do anything else, I'm physicking Ranulf. Then I might need to have Rayson chant for her and have her heal Rayson. Because yeah, it looks like that sniper's in a position where I can't quite get to him just yet. Shade is also pretty effective for avoiding being targeted by ballistas or long-range tomes. Probably should have iked forward a bit. No, I probably should have moved Ike a bit forward. Let's Ike forward. That is now a verb. Right. Soren can go there. There's a not too insignificant chance that Soren will fall in a pit at some point. Okay. I almost said, okay, good, no pit, and then the last square that he stepped on was a pit. I thought so. I thought that was a pit too. So, yeah, they have kind of insurance against you using long-range attacks against these enemies with those pits. I had a feeling that was a pit. I probably should have seen that coming. But yeah, I just don't really have the pit locations memorized usually, but I just find playing this chapter more fun that way. This does mean I only have 1 use of Blizzard left when I get it though, which is a problem. If I had Marsha, Marsha would... Or I could do that, but that does mean... Actually, no, Ranulph should be okay there. As long as there is another pit. Okay, good, no other pit. And I can just finish you off without needing to worry about a counterattack. So, I got 2 uses out of Blizzard. Like I said, if I'd been training Marsha, Marsha would just fly in and smash this guy and probably equip the full guard to avoid getting effectiveness damage from the ballistas. I think at one attempt of this chapter, like in a playthrough ages ago, I actually gave Rayson the full guard just to make him safer against the ballistas here. And there's Blizzard. Guy's a killer bow, but he's probably going to stay on his ballista for now. Might as well move Volk as far as he can get, because I will want to steal that physics staff, but I also don't want Volk to get hit by the killer ballista and all those tigers. But I could just rescue him. And I believe that even untransformed, Rayson still counts as flying in terms of movement type, just not in terms of effectiveness type. So he won't be able to trigger pits either. Please don't let there be a pit there, good. I've been saying pit a lot this chapter, which makes me think of Kid Icarus. Which, I mean, you know, it would be great if Uprising got a sequel, but I don't know if that will ever happen. Admittedly, though, the original got a sequel after 20... Was it actually 25 years between the original and Uprising, or not? Anyway, we've already cleared out pretty much half the bridge. The pitfalls are annoying, but this chapter's really not that terrible. I'm kind of glad you did that, because that makes it easier for Volk to steal from you without getting in range of other things. Also, oh no, Tornado! I'm so scared! 6 might, whatever will I do? It's kind of interesting how Wind Magic still manages to be decent in this game, despite its terrible attack power. Are you serious? The pit saved you from being Sorened last turn, and now you're just attacking him yourself. Great job. Also, this is why knife stages are useless, because even with weapon triangle disadvantage, I still one round an enemy magic user with magic. Hence, again, you do not want to give sages knives. There's no use for it at all. That should be fine. Oh, that's actually kind of funny. Yeah, like all Lagoos, Rayson gains Transform Gauge from being attacked. And more enemies for Jill to handle single-handedly. I seem to really like these silver blades, though. I do want to get more axe experience, though. Maybe I should use Zenobia. I'll need to forge more of these forged hand axes and javelins eventually, because I might need them for the trial maps, as I keep saying. Wyverns look pretty silly when they dodge things with that hop, but I already mentioned that before, all the way back in the Serenae's Forest chapter. Yeah, these reinforcements would be a jerk if this was like FE7 and you had someone like Merlinus to protect right at the beginning of the map, but it's not like that, so as long as you leave Jill back here, and Jill's trained. If she's not trained, that can actually be kind of dangerous. That's 1 extra range for your long-range stars, which is good. Okay, need to remember, I need to steal that, but I also need to make sure... Actually, there isn't much that can get Volk here. Well, those axemen might be able to get him. And you might notice they're marked as mercenary, just like those other ones. But the snipers are marked as soldiers, so snipers still count as a non-mercenary club. Why am I not surprised? I should have seen that coming. I really should have seen that coming. Oh good, that's not a pit. That's interesting. But Gatry isn't doubling you. That means that unfortunately this, you can still rescue people who are in pits, so that's good to know. That means this sage will have to survive for another turn. No, actually. And that wasn't a pit, thankfully. to watch out for those tigers, though. And the killer ballistas. Don't want to speak too soon, but I usually don't find they're that dangerous. Speaking of not that dangerous, just wait until, you can get to run off, which is a bit of a problem. But just wait until we get to certain things later on this map, namely the stone thrower, which is really, really dumb. You know, I probably should have had Soren get Racing so that... Actually, wait a minute, watch out for the ballistas. Because then he might have been able to heal Ranulf, but oh well. So I guess now I can show how Volk has been refreshed in terms of movement, but I can't move him because he's under the effect of that stun status. Okay, I have a feeling there's going to be a pit here. Let's see. No pit. Okay, then. That's good. Let's just destroy you and get rid of that ballista. There aren't really all that many pits in this one. Also, like, when you think about it, no, they didn't have enough time, but wouldn't it be more dangerous to us if they dug the pits all the way through the bridge so that anyone who fell in a pit would actually fall through into the water below? Wouldn't that be more convenient for them? You know, that would make it a lot easier to kill us, but I don't know, it turns out they're just like, oh no, we don't need to do that. Let's just dig the pits so that they only, like, maybe they just didn't have time, but I still find it funny how they just didn't go all the way. Of course, you know, we all know why they didn't go all the way, because for gameplay reasons, that would be terrible if that was the case. Just imagine if falling in a pit instantly kills you. And yeah, you can't smite anyone in a pit. Okay, next turn I'll be able to steal out physics staff and get rid of this sage. I probably need to watch out for Ranulf here, though. One thing I do like, well, I mean, the animations are still pretty cool for these high-rank tones, but I also like how they have a different sound effect when they make that first, like, magical... Don't know what to call it. It's not really an aura, like that sort of orb that appears above the mage's head. I like how it's different for each element. Actually, I don't even think Thunder has one, but... I like how it's, that better not be a Lagoose bow, thank you. I like how the sound effect is a bit different for the higher ranked tomes. Not that you'll really ever know that, because the A-ranked tomes are pretty useless in this one. Thoron actually looks pretty cool, but you probably won't get to see it unless you use Ileana a lot. And even then, it's not the best tome for Ileana to be using. Thunder pretty much suits, like, in this game, you don't really need much more than Thunder or Forge Thunder. If you're on the Japanese version, you'll not need anything except Forge Thunder, because, you know, Forge Thunder can have 255 crit in that game. I didn't need to worry about Ranulf at all. Wow. So yeah, Ranulf is pretty strong. He's definitely one of the more useful Lagoose characters. Well, later on in the game at least. Leth and Mordecai are great early. Ranulf essentially replaces them in the late game. He doesn't transform as fast as Leth though, which is why I kind of liked using Denny Ban with him. Okay, I will need to clear up that big traffic jam of enemies there. Reinforcements here are pretty fond of blades. I still can't say blade without, although it's kind of interesting how, like, the term blades means something completely different in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles X. The term is really significant to both games, and yet it's completely different in both of them, although... like, the term isn't all that significant in the first game, apart from some metaphorical implications. And that line, your blade not cut deep enough. Okay, now we get to the point where I'm glad I had Jill back here. This is why I left her there. And things actually look good for us because we've been waiting for this a long time. It's time to finally get you on our side. This has to be Jill, by the way. No one else will work. Yeah, it's a good thing Har didn't fight in Chapter 20, otherwise we might have had to kill him there. And Betrayed in particular, she was pretty awful to him, and now fighting her with Har is going to be pretty satisfying. Yeah, so the whole reason why Har was here is because he just wanted to go for her. And this explains why you can feel free to fight the Wyvern Riders that appear with Har here, because they're not actually the ones that he was tasked with getting back to their families in Bednion. No, they're a bunch of thugs that Petrine sent to watch him. So they kind of figured him out and were sending him onto the front line and hoped that he would die, but they didn't count on the fact that he could join us. Yeah, Har doesn't really care about, countries and things. You know what, I just realized? Har reminds me a lot of Grit from Advance Wars. I wonder if that's... Like, a lot of people compare him to Kakashi from Naruto. Like, someone with an eye patch who's really lazy, but actually is insanely powerful when they actually put their all into something. And I can kind of see that, but given that Intelligent Systems made both games, I wonder if Har is referencing Grit, because he does seem similar in some ways. Also, this is great. This is great. Oh, and that doesn't actually preclude us from attacking, so hi there, Petrine's Watchdogs, you're gonna die now. You waited to backstab Har a little too late. Speaking of Har, here he is. If you've ever played Fire Emblem Radiant Har, I mean Radiant Dawn, you probably are very familiar with this guy. You might want to forget most of the stuff you know though, because Har in this game is nowhere near as amazing as he is in Radiant Dawn. He's very similar to Toronio, I find. A decent pre-promote, but not spectacular due to his kind of mediocre base stats for his level. His growths are decent, but those bases do hold him back a lot. But he does have B ranks in both axes and lances, and comes with a Brave Axe, which is a pretty good weapon, and the Guard skill, which is not bad. Having a 19% chance of cancelling enemy attacks at base is, well, you could do far worse with your skill slots. So Har in this game is just another pretty good filler unit, but not likely to be outclassing Jill, Marsha, or Tanith anytime soon. If you are planning on transferring to Radiant Dawn though, it might be a good idea to train Har and use stat boosters to cap his stats, because, well, admittedly it's not like he really needs transfer bonuses in Radiant Dawn, but they make an already ridiculously broken character even more broken. Now, I believe Har and Jill actually do have a bond support, so I probably should have Kanto Jill there, but it's fine. I'm not really going to be using Har, but at least I can show him fighting a little bit. I don't want to waste the Brave Axe that much. In this game, Brave weapons are only B ranked, but they're still pretty good while, yeah, weight 20, but most people at this point in the game will have way more strength than that. But it's funny, I don't feel like Brave weapons are that overpowered in this game. It's more because they're rare. You usually only get one of each type of Brave weapon per game. And there's the physics staff, so now I can get rid of you. But first, I really don't want that tiger to be running around in my, running around amongst us. So, you're going down, tiger. And then clearing up the other enemies. I can probably get a good feel for where there aren't pits, because the enemies will have moved over this area and not activated them, because, yeah. Also, yeah, feral ones are starting to give quite a lot of experience at this point. I think Nephany will play it safe over here. Because I don't want her falling in the pit again. She already hasn't done all that much in this chapter, so she needs to get a little bit more action. Even though these enemies hardly qualify as action. Pretty bad in terms of experience overall. Yeah, I need to get rid of that guy. Good, that's not a pit. Stefan does tend to be a little weak to mages later in the game. Not if he crits them first, though. You know, I probably should have given Stefan Vantage. That might have worked out so much better than having it on Nephany, because she just doesn't really get into Wrath range that often. I like to give Vantage to classes that get crit bonuses, because that increases the chances of you just, you know, flat out critting someone before they get a chance to hit you. No pit, good. But no double, bad. But if I get Luna here, maybe. Come on, Luna. You can do it, Luna. No. Yeah, you'll know immediately if you get Luna, so obviously didn't get it there. Though I really like in Radiant Dawn how it actually flashes up the skill's name whenever a skill triggers. That, I believe, happens in Awakening as well, though I'm not sure. The cut-in kind of covers a lot of the screen in that instance. And yeah, since there was an enemy already standing there before, obviously that's not a pit. As I said before, there aren't really that many pits in this chapter. When they brought this gimmick back for Radiant Dawn, they added a lot more pits. That one's a bit more dangerous than this map. Of course, by the time you get to the pit map in Radiant Dawn, your army is so insanely overpowered that usually it doesn't even matter that much anyway. Which is pretty much the same as here, actually. I said actually a lot there. Yeah, might as well heal Ranulph. He probably needs it more than Stefan does. I had a feeling. At least that means you're trapped now. Because, yeah, you're now, there's enemies there, there's a pit there, and then you're blocked there, so you don't even need to worry about this guy for the most part. And you're gonna be... How's your luck stat? It's decent. Might as well do that. Basically, I really want to get Leth and Ranulph to a big support, which is going to require using the two of them for quite a few chapters. Not that many, though, because all of the late joining characters, they support very quickly. Now I need to lock in your ranges, just to make sure that I don't screw myself over with Rayson here. This is technically only chanting for one person, because I don't really want Volk to do anything else this chapter. Wait a minute, or do I? Wait, 15. Strength 15. Although I think your strength has to be greater than the weapon's weight in order to steal it. Also, I don't want Volk getting hit by that guy, or either of those guys, or the killer ballistas. Yeah, no, Volk's gonna go back. If I have Stefan go there, the problem with that is that the tiger is gonna come, and then I would rather Gatry gets hit by the tiger than Stefan. Or even Ike. Ike getting hit by the tiger is not a bad idea either. Actually, gotta watch out for you. Yep, you are definitely potentially in range of Rayson, so I'm gonna need to... That didn't block Rayson, apparently. So I just have to hope that he's safe. Guess that hand axe Cavalier can just go right next to Rayson. Stefan's in a good position to level up from... Or you could just be dumb like that. Stefan's in a good position to level up simply from dodging something, which is always fun when it happens. So we're almost to Petrine, and you'll soon be seeing just how she's not really that much of a threat. Although, as I said, she's very hard to double. Well, even if that was a crit, that wouldn't have killed you. And on hard, her stats are a little bit... Like, her defenses are high, but more she's just an annoying wall to take down. There's no real risk of her actually killing you. Speaking of no real risk of something actually killing you, here's the Stone Thrower. 1 damage! Stone Throwers have almost non-existent might in this game, so... Well, leveling up after getting shot by a ballista is just as funny. I don't know exactly how much might they have, but it's very tiny. Like, I think they're rigged to always do at least 1 damage, but... They do have an area of effect, but it's not like that really matters because they do almost no damage to you. As I said though, there was one chapter in Radiant Dawn Part 2 where I actually think I had Kieran die to a Stone Thrower. That was pretty embarrassing. Because that one actually did do a bit of damage, but... Here they're pathetic. You don't need to worry about them at all. Now, as we get closer to the end point of this chapter, a certain event will occur that might actually mean we'll need to... Okay, yeah, the event's occurring right now. Right on cue. Completely called it. And yes, this is Lucia, no N, Lucia. And we're about to meet this character, and this guy is one of the main reasons why I wish, well, I don't wish this game had full voice acting, because it would probably have been terrible, but if this game ever gets a remake, it needs full voice acting, because, almost entirely because of this guy. So, Bastian pretty much is just like a walking Shakespeare reference. He pretty much talks like someone out of a Shakespeare play. I kind of wonder how he spoke in the Japanese version, but... The localizers actually did a good job of making his dialogue sound Shakespearean, because a lot of times whenever a localization tries to do that, it usually comes across as sounding really, like, completely wrong. Like, they get thou and thy completely wrong, but here... Like, they don't even use any of those, but they still, like... This game's localization is pretty great overall. Also, I actually like this. This is one of the few cases where I prefer someone's Japanese name to their English name. This guy's Japanese name is Ulysses, which I think fits him so much more than Bastian, and I really wish he'd kept that name. So that happens now. As you can tell, those are Crimeans, so Elincia is going to be happy once she reaches the edge of this map. Well, she won't be able to under our control. That'll happen during the cutscene. We can't quite see them just yet, and we can't quite see exactly what Lucia and Bastian's stats are like. But I can... Let me just try something. I just want to... 35. If I put Har here... Maybe it's a crit guard. I forget exactly... I thought they had a bomb support, but anyway... And I also thought she had a bond support with Shiharam, and that didn't happen. So now Jill, I think, can finally start heading up, but she's not really going to be of much use to the main part of this chapter at this point. She did a good job fighting the reinforcements, though. Okay, I need to heal you. Gotta watch out for these ballistas, though. I also need to watch out, because... yeah, I had a feeling. There were no pits around this area, so there was going to be one eventually. Of course there would be. So... yeah, let's just do this. I just want to get rid of those snipers, but obviously the pits are positioned in such a way that's pretty easy to... Well, they're positioned in such a way to sort of block off the snipers. I'm pretty sure there's going to be like another pit around there, isn't there? So I can try and advance forward, but I might end up falling in a pit like that. And pit again. But this side's mostly safe, it seems. Do I dare risk this? Oh, no pit. Okay, that's good. I was kind of hoping that I get to just do like a charge fanfare, and then she falls in a pit. Okay, that's one ballista down. But I have so many of my people in pits now that can't really do all that much. But the main reason why I want to clear out these enemies now is because next turn, these NPCs are going to enter the fight. And they're, like all NPCs, they're going to be kill-stealing jerks. So I want to avoid that if, well, not like I can really avoid them being kill-stealing jerks, but I want to make sure that if at all possible, they don't kill-steal all that much. Can I even get... Okay, wait, Randolph can go here. I feel like he's going to fall in a pit if I do this. Okay, good, no pit. I could have tried advancing him further, but I'm sort of worried about pits. Yeah, the fact that I left my one flyer besides racing back at the start of the map means that I don't have that easy way of dealing with pits, which is to put a flyer on top of them. So, like, if I had a flyer here, I could have run people across this pit and not needed to worry about falling in it. Anybody need healing? Stefan does. Randolph only... Actually, you might need healing. Go around here. Don't know if there are any other pits over there. And... Alright, you're naturally transformed. You're not demi-banded, so your stats are a little bit higher. I need to remember that. Not that much higher. In this game, I find the demi-band pretty decent because it's most of its bonuses are... Like, it doesn't give that big of a penalty to you. Is that Mordecai's first level up? I think it is. Its main penalty is to strength, and that does mean you miss out on a lot of one-round kills sometimes, which is unfortunate, but I find the demi-band is pretty convenient most of the time. There aren't that many Lagoo stones in the game, and I kind of like to save those for a certain Lagoos that we get towards the very end. Mainly, like, not now, but mainly for the trial maps. I keep mentioning saving things for the trial maps a lot, but I wanted to keep some of my resources there, because you can't actually access any shops between the epilogue and the trial maps, so you're stuck with whatever inventory you go into the final battle with. You can still, like, do battle preparations and sort around items in the convoy, but you can't, like, buy any new items or anything like that. Yeah, you're getting healed, aren't you? Well, that was a pretty impressive amount of healing. What's not impressive, though, is how much damage this stone thrower was about to do. I don't even know why they thought these stone throwers were a good idea, because they do just nothing to you. For example, 1. 5. Well, Soren's a fragile mage, but still, 5 damage on a fragile mage. And I was worried that would crit for a second. But yeah, the stone thrower is really, really not a threat at all, and it's just sad how little damage it does. It's not quite as sad as the spear traps in the last side quest chapter in FE6. Which is just like, oh look, it's the final side quest in the game. Let's have traps that have... Oh, that is a pull. I was worried that was a pull for a second. But, yeah. Let's have these traps that have 10 might. And here is where things get annoying. Also, this is not a great speech. I feel like it's like, why are you telling them to be ready to die? I mean, that's pretty typical for NPCs, admittedly, but still. And the useless brigade arrives. So the funny thing is, these NPCs can end up attacking Patrine. They usually don't do very well against her, but they can actually trigger her regular boss quote, which is funny. Even though they're all paladins, these NPCs are not that great. But then again, Fire Emblem does not have a good track record with NPC paladins. Cough, cough, Lachesis, cough, cough. At least you don't have to worry about these NPCs. Like, at least these NPCs, you don't need to make sure they survive to get an item. Don't even think they're worth bonus experience if they live either. So, really... I'm actually glad you missed there. Because that means I can claim the delicious experience from that guy, because... Let's be honest, silencing the Stone Thrower is not a priority for me right now. And more reinforcements to keep the NPCs busy. Silverland's Wyvern Lord, but with pretty pathetic stats. So yeah, here are the Crimean Paladins. Their stats are okay by the standards of the enemies in this game, but they're not really going to be doing much work here. And thankfully, Nephany can... I have a feeling she's going to fall in another pit. Let's see. Yep, I knew it. I knew there'd be a pit between those sandbags. So this side is safe, thankfully. Nephany hasn't had very good luck with pits. Reminds me of another country-accented character who also doesn't have good luck with pits. Well, actually, no, wait, no. Donald makes pits. It's actually Pan in who Donald supports with her that has the bad luck with pits. I always found that, like, some people like that as a pairing, and I really like their paired ending. Their paired ending is actually great, but the actual supports themselves, I just find it really awkward that they end up bonding through her falling in rabbit traps. I found Soren hasn't been activating Adept very much lately. He should be activating it even more with his high skill now, but he just hasn't really been getting it that much. So speaking of Soren, I need to have Soren fight Patrine. Patrine is an absolute joke of a boss, but... Oh, hey, Thunder Rank leveled up. You can use bolting now, which actually might be helpful. But yeah, even though she's an absolute joke of a boss, she does have some interesting dialogue with Soren. So I really want to have her fight him. It's probably the one interesting thing about Patrine as a character. So I've already talked about how I feel about Patrine overall in this game. I still feel like her character would have worked so much better as an early game boss than as a late game... Well, a late game boss. And I was thinking, oh yeah, the less likely to have a pit around the side, but nope, pit there. But yeah, I feel like her character would have made a lot more sense as an early game boss than one fought now. You really should have fought her in Chapter 7. It would have given the opening part of... Dang it, should have used the Tomahawk. It would have given the opening part of the game a big climactic fight towards the end, and it would have meant that... Because I still think that she's not... Like, a lot of people lament the fact that Patrine, a character who had such build-up, is a very easy boss in the late game, but I still just don't think she's a particularly interesting character. She's really just a one-dimensional hate sink without any redeeming qualities at all, and there's only really one interesting thing about her backstory, and that's something that I thought that might happen. And that's something that we'll be finding out if we have her fight Soren. And only if we have her fight Soren. But apart from that, she's very one-dimensional. She's just the generic bad boss who kills her minions all the time, and generally hates everyone and exists just to be hated. So it's kind of like how I feel, although, like, it's not like I'm trying to compare Patrine to Hans and Iago, because I'm not. There's no way you can get any worse than they are. Like, as far as bad Fire Emblem villains go, they will always be at the very bottom. But I think I might actually need to Meteor this guy. I'm doubling with Meteor. I'm doubling with Meteor. That's really sad. But It's like how I feel like Hans and Diago, their characters would have worked well as early game bosses, but not, you know, saved for the very end. They're even worse than Patrine, obviously, because you don't get to fight them until, like, almost the end of the game, while the rest of the game has just been built up to make you hate them as much as possible without you being able to do anything about it. The thing that I don't like about Patrine, I've alluded to this before, but it's the fact that she vanishes from the plot completely after Chapter 7 until Chapter 19. It's just such a weird decision to make her, like... So, she's considered a legitimate threat in the early game, she's built up as a major antagonist, and then she disappears after Grail dies, and you don't see her at all until Chapter 19, by which point you're expected to still care about her as a threat. It's kind of weird. I feel like Patrine would have been a lot better if you had fought her earlier. So, that's mostly my rant on Patrine. You know what it also would have made better as well? It would have given... So, there are 2 members of the 4 Riders we haven't even met yet. In fact, one of them I don't think they've even mentioned yet. They've mentioned Bryce by name, and the other member of the 4 Riders, we don't even meet him or even hear about him or his backstory until we fight him. I feel like if Patrine had been fought in the early game, maybe they could have devoted more time to developing the other 2 4 Riders, who are honestly far more interesting characters than Patrine ever was. Well, admittedly, Bryce is only slightly more interesting. Bryce is not that great of a character, but... No, my experience! Why? Admittedly, these guys are doing better than they usually do in my runs. Generally speaking, 1 or 2 of them tend to be dead at this point for me. I also love that Sniper stole Patrine's Elixir, because that's going to make her even easier to beat. I also love that you dodge there, because that's going to make it even easier for me to get experience from you. Or not. Please don't double him. No, my experience! Again. That's just kind of the thing with NPCs, sadly. They're either just dying all the time, or stealing your experience. Poor Nephany, she hasn't really got to do much this chapter. Let's see, I might be able to position Rayson for a quadruple if I set things up just right. Unfortunately, Soren can't really get into a good position for a quadruple. Stefan can, though. Actually, I can't do a quadruple anyway, because the stupid ballista's in the way. Well, not ballista, the stone thrower, which is even more stupid than a stupid ballista, because stone throwers are just terrible. And I'll have to wait for a little bit, because I am not risking having Ike ether Patrine to death before I get Soren's conversation. Unlike the last chapter, where I failed to get a special boss conversation and it wasn't really that big a deal, I really, really have to get Patrine's special boss dialogue, because it's really important. It also means I get to mention something from the art book. That poor horse, wow. Anyway, this chapter's actually gone on pretty long, and I think there are some decently long cutscenes after it's over. If I want to smite Gatry, I'll need to rescue Rayson, which I might not want to do. Okay, one of you can get to Rayson. I think I can safely block him off. Yep, that's Rayson blocked off. And we'll be ready to fight Patrine next turn. You know, I might as well just have Ike stand here just to get Patrine's special boss dialogue with him. I'll probably need Mordecai on hand to smite Soren into range of Patrine. And let's have Miss on hand to heal. Anyone doesn't? Actually, no, Mordecai really needs it, so glad you're just in range. See, even this late in the game, Mordecai is still being kind of useful. That more just goes to show how pathetic enemies are at this point. That was good, though. Mist usually has a bit more resistance than this for me, though. But that was pretty good. I forget if... Actually, I think Jill does have special boss dialogue with Patrine. Har does too. Har actually has pretty good dialogue as well. I don't think, like, Leth and Mordecai in particular... And I was hoping you went for Ike, but oh well. So, Patrine's kind of insane at this point. Okay, one of them died. That doesn't let that Wyvern Rider attack Racing, does it? It might. Crimea also seems to really like Lance and Bow Paladins. Considering that Oscar's canonically one, and he used to be from the Crimean army, and a certain other significant knight that Crimea has is also a Lance Bow Paladin. And here comes the phase where the NPCs steal all my experience again. They also get really annoying later on if they get hurt, because they'll start running around everywhere using vulneraries and trading vulneraries to each other, and in my first playthrough I remember that got pretty ridiculous. They wasted so much time doing that. I think soon we'll be down to just Patrine, though. And yeah, this is, unlike the earlier chapter that I mistook for a Siege chapter, this one actually is Siege, so I will need Ike for this. Actually, I'll need Racing for this too, because Mordecai wouldn't have been able to smite you. Yeah, Patrine actually can be, although the Tomahawk I think is... Yeah, you're getting weighed down a little bit by that. Only 15 strength. That's actually a little low for Titania at this point in the game, I think. No, let's just have Neffany do that, because she hasn't really done enough this chapter. This might not even be enough to do it if she doesn't crit, though. No. And that poor Wyvern. Its neck is being shish kebabbed. But yeah, I better end this quickly because I'm already over an hour. I didn't expect this chapter to take this long. Okay, let's get you in here for healing, and let's just get this conversation over with. The sheer amount of use Racing gets tends to give him a lot of level ups, but he's still probably not going to hit 20. Even though he can get transfer bonuses, they're not really going to be that useful to him in the long run. And yeah, Sorin is not able to double here, but he might get Adept. And you might notice that Thunder gets Weapon Triangle advantage, because yeah, the Flame Lance is considered fire magic, so it does get Weapon Triangle disadvantage against Thunder, but I'm still having more accuracy with Heart of Fire. Now here is the conversation I wanted to say. Like I said, this is pretty much the one interesting thing about Patrine. Patrine is also a branded. Which in some ways might explain how she got to be the way she is. She was probably treated very badly when she was younger. Speaking of which, it also implies that she's probably a lot older than she looks. Because something that was not explained in Ike and Soren's support is that branded age more slowly than Bjork do. This is why if you remember back to when I did Soren's bio and also Stefan's, I put a question mark after their age. That was deliberate. That was referencing this. So, branded age more slowly than normal Bjork do. So, while Patrine looks like she's in her 30s, she's probably a lot older than that. Of course, at what rate they age depends on what type of branded they are. And that's the thing I was going to mention about the art book. So, according to the art book, Patrine, her Lagoo's ancestry is Tiger. I think she's one of the only, most of the brandeds that you have on your side do have confirmed ancestry. Yes, we know what Stefan's ancestry is, and his is actually pretty important. And we know what Soren's ancestry is, but that's a spoiler for Radiant Dawn. And we know what a certain branded in Radiant Dawn's ancestry is, but that's also a spoiler. But in terms of not many of them, there are some other branded enemies besides Patrine. Patrine is the only one whose ancestry is outright confirmed. Also, that is a pathetic point, seriously. Patrine does look pretty cool, though, in battle. It is just a palette swap of the generic Paladin model, but still pretty cool. Does Titania get special boss dialogue? I don't think she does. Oh, that's a shame. Because Patrine fought Grail, so Titania would probably have something to say about that, and also Patrine is in some ways kind of like a dark counterpart to Titania. Well, at least she leveled up out of that. I would have appreciated strength, but yeah. There's no way the others are gonna get here in time. Now, let's just hope the NPCs don't end up killing Patrine, because that would be really stupid. I thought you'd go for Soren, but wait, Soren was doing 14, wasn't he? So you will die to this if Soren hits you. All for one, well, no damage because you missed. And you're definitely dying now. I think it's only fitting that Soren gets the kill here. If it was anyone else, I'd feel bad for her with that death point, but for Patrine, she's pretty much lost all sympathy points by this point. It's a lot like Sonya in FE7. She technically had a sympathetic death quote, but, I mean, there's no chance you're feeling any sympathy for her at that point. Now, whatever you do, don't jump on the seize point, because that would be really stupid. Okay. And really now, the only thing that's left is to get a bit of experience on my staff users. Don't want to waste any more uses of Physic, though. And that would be S. Nice, you can use the Goddess Staff, well, the Ashura Staff. Interesting fact is that the Goddess Staff from Awakening is actually the same staff as the Ashura Staff. It only specifically refers to Ashura in the English version of Path of Radiance. I think it's actually just called Goddess Staff in Japanese. So they had to change its name there because otherwise, yeah, Ashura isn't really part of Awakening's mythology, even though she does get mentioned in Priam's paralogue. Which raises some interesting implications. So now, that's pretty much all we can do. Let's see, isn't it, in the chapter? Took a little longer than I expected, but I'm glad I got to show that conversation. So they already have a welcome party for her. These two know each other. Lucia and Alincia were pretty much surrogate sisters to each other growing up. I think we heard mention of General Joffrey earlier. That's actually kind of interesting, because all these people are not relevant to the plot at all and will never be talked about again. But a little bit of world building at least, that they actually mention their names. But if Crimea at least has some semblance of an army left, they can join up with us and help out. This has been implied all this time. Everyone probably knows who Alincia is by now. That was actually brought up all the way back in Chapter 5. The fact that they surrounded our fort and demanded we hand her over was pretty much proof that she really was the princess, so Dayan kind of screwed themselves over there. Meanwhile, we have some questions for Ranulf. Wait, so Nasir is responsible for everyone in Crimea being behind Elincia? Then why was he a traitor? Oh no, I think I know what's going on here. No answers from him yet. More mysterious plot points that will have to be clarified much later. And that was still full bonus experience because, yeah, like I said, they're very generous with the turn limits at this point in the game. So with that chapter over, we have finally gotten even with Petrine, and we are officially back in Crimea. From here on begins the final arc of the game, as we fight our way through Crimea to reclaim Elincia's homeland.